Okay, let's dive straight into this explainer and uncover the invisible forces of marketing that dictate exactly why we buy what we buy. We're going to expose a massive business lie that has honestly fooled the entire world. Most of us go through life assuming the best products automatically win, right? We believe that if you just make something better, faster, or cheaper, the market will naturally reward you. We love to think of ourselves as deeply rational shoppers, but as we're about to see, history tells a much messier and frankly a much more fascinating story.
Take this guy, Daniel, for example. What happened to him is just absurd. A couple of years ago, he launched what should have been the absolute perfect physical product. I mean, he had better materials, a lower price point, and just completely superior quality compared to everyone else on the shelf. He literally did everything right by the traditional rules of business, yet 6 months later, completely bankrupt. Meanwhile, his biggest competitor was selling a demonstrably worse product at a much higher price, and they were so successful they were actually opening a second factory.
So, why did Daniel go bankrupt? Keep that exact question tucked in the back of your mind, because by the time we finish up here, the answer is going to completely change how you view your own shopping cart. This isn't just some dry business case study. The exact same invisible force that killed Daniel's business is the very same force that's been quietly draining your bank account for years, probably without you ever even noticing.
Think about a daily example of this phenomenon in literally any supermarket. You walk down the beverage aisle and pick up a bottle of water. One costs $1. The one sitting right next to it, $4. It is the exact same liquid, sourced from the exact same planet, and held to the exact same health and safety standards. Yet, millions of people confidently reach for that $4 bottle every single day. So, what are we actually paying for when we grab the expensive one? Are we paying for the water, or are we paying for the story printed on the label?
Here's the secret. The biggest companies on Earth figured out a long time ago that they aren't selling you a physical item at all. They're selling you a story. Now, sure, great companies might build genuinely great products, but even the best physical item on Earth still needs a story to survive. Why? Because human beings rarely make purchasing decisions based purely on logic. Brands don't sell products. They sell emotions, they sell identity, they sell status. Heck, sometimes these companies even sell you problems they quietly helped create in the first place, just so they can swoop in and sell you the emotional solution.
Let's move to Section 1, the birth of branding, from factories to feelings. To really grasp how products stopped being just basic utilities, we need to look back at the exact moment the entire game of commerce shifted.
Back in the late 1800s, factories were just exploding in size. Suddenly, companies weren't struggling to make things, they were struggling to sell them, simply because 10 different factories were producing nearly identical bars of soap. So, companies stopped saying, hey, our soap cleans better, and started selling feelings like family, success, or belonging. The product basically became a costume for your identity. And nobody understood this better than Coca-Cola. In the 1930s, a company selling what is essentially just sugar water ran holiday ads that helped cement the modern, warm, jolly, red-suited image of Santa Claus that we all recognize today. They weren't just selling a drink, they shaped a global cultural icon just to make their brand unforgettable.
You see, a brand is way more than just a slick logo. It leverages this psychological quirk called the mere exposure effect. It's basically a shortcut wired directly into your brain to bypass logic and instantly earn your trust. The mere exposure effect just means that the more often people see a name, the more they trust it. Absolutely no persuasion required. Over time, the product completely stops being about what it actually does and becomes entirely about what buying it says about you.
Which brings us to Section 2, the battle for your attention. Earning that trust through repetition was only the first step. Next came the all-out war for the most valuable resource on the planet, your attention.
Let's fast forward to 1984 and see how this plays out with Apple's famous Super Bowl ad, directed by Ridley Scott. In a 60-second commercial, Apple didn't show a single computer working. Not one. Instead, they showed a runner smashing a screen of a faceless dictator. There were no product specs, no features, no price listed anywhere. They were purely selling the feeling that you are a rebel, you are different from everyone else. This was the exact turning point where marketing quietly stopped being about the product entirely.
Today, this sequence is engineered by algorithms, literally second by second. The goal isn't always to get you to buy instantly. Often the goal is simply to stay unforgettable. They relentlessly repeat the same colors, fonts, and slogans everywhere you look. Why? Because repetition builds recognition. Recognition then builds familiarity. And finally, the most dangerous step, familiarity quietly kills your hesitation to buy, way before you even notice it happening. Simple messages spread like wildfire, and they get repeated till your logic is bypassed completely.
What's that into Section 3,
selling identity instead of products. This is the ultimate evolution of this whole system, selling you a version of yourself.
Think about it. Two people buy a pair of basketball shoes. One pays $30, the other drops $250. But they share identical rubber, an identical sole, and standard stitching across the board. So what exactly changed? Well, in 1984, when Nike signed a rookie named Michael Jordan, the NBA actually banned his shoes for violating uniform rules. But Nike didn't back down. They kept airing the ads anyway, turning a punishment into a legend before the shoe even sold its first pair. They used that ban to sell a story of greatness and rebellion, proving you aren't paying for rubber to jump higher, you're paying for a piece of legacy.
0. Literally 0. That is the exact number of times Rolex has ever run a discount, a sale, or a clearance rack in its entire history. Not once.
A basic digital watch is mathematically more accurate at telling time, and it costs less than a cheap dinner. But Rolex proves that people will pay the price of a house for a watch. You aren't buying extra accuracy. You're buying the fact that not everyone can have one. Scarcity isn't just some side effect of their manufacturing process. It's the core feature they are selling you. It allows you to signal your status to everyone around you. People rarely want the actual product. They want the version of themselves that the product seems to promise.
And this brings us right back to our original mystery. Why did Daniel go bankrupt? Well, Daniel failed because he only built a product. He thought people were buying utility, better materials, and a lower price. Meanwhile, his competitor successfully built a bridge. They understood that every single year, millions of people take on debt and work overtime just to buy things they don't really need, because someone convinced them that owning the right items would finally make them feel like enough. Daniel's competitor built a bridge to their customers' desired identity, while Daniel was just left standing there alone with a pile of perfect but totally meaningless products.
So, the next time you're tossing an item into your shopping cart, take a hard look at the label and ask yourself who you're really paying. Are you buying the materials in the box, or are you buying the story it tells about you?